Today's video, we are going to discuss UV lighting. I think UV in fly fishing is a very understated method in things that aren't as popular as it ought to be. I personally have firsthand knowledge when I go out and fish with stuff that's been UV treated or is UV reactive materials that I tend to have way more luck. I would say probably a 50-60% success rate higher. I can't judge that a lot as of recently because most everything I fish with UV, and it really does a lot. And science has shown that fish have more cones in their eyes that allow them to see stuff that the human eye can't see on the UV spectrum. So what we're going to talk about today is UV treating and how to do some of it, some of the products you can buy that are available for purchase, and some of the products that you can buy as additives in a very super cheap, economical way that you can do it yourself. So let's get started. First and foremost, here's a couple products. It's called UV2, and this is some dubbing, and this is some marabou. You can see the little package that's all made with some UV reactive coatings, and it works okay. I'm going to step up for just a second and I'm going to kill the light, and I'm going to show you guys some black light stuff, and then I'll explain to you some things and why black light is important. So as you can see, this is UV reacted store-bought material. Not really that great. It does have some, and it tends to do better than most, but it still doesn't do that great. And you can see this is their UV reactive materials a little bit, but still not that great. But you can look back here at my desk, and you can see all the different stuff I've got in here that is UV reactive. Here is some neon UV reactive materials that I have made myself, and I'm going to show you how I've done that. I'm going to turn the light back on. Okay, so what I do is there's two different methods. First, you can buy what's called Color Shot, and it is an instant fabric color. It is permanent, super easy to use. The only problem I have with it is it's a little thick when you spray it, so you really got to get some distance on it when you do it. So I'm going to spray a piece real quick. And that is all you have to do. Okay, so that has been sprayed with some factory spray. Now that stuff works really good, dries really fast, but you want to make sure and let it sit really until you know it's 100% hard. They also make a marker. This marker is something I carry with me in my fly vest, and I'll show you why. I've got a streamer here that I use for saltwater fishing, and I'll take this little marker and you just shake it up. It's just paint marker, and when you're doing different things with your fly, you can just kind of dab a little bit on. It's just like a Sharpie marker. It's just a little bit more wet. This is something, if you're out fishing and you are having where you can see where the fish are and they're not taking your bait, or something's a little bit goofy, this is something to carry in your vest where you can add just a couple little dots to your flies. If you're not a fly fisherman, you can do this to your lures. You can add this to jig heads. It's awesome. It will make stuff super reflective, and when you do that, it does night and day changes. You'll see here in just a second. I'm going to kill the light again, and this is called a phosphorescent glow-in-the-dark pin, and I'm going to explain this and why everything that I'm going to show works. What UV is basically phosphors, and what they are is chemicals that are a chemical that absorbs light and holds that light momentarily, and something with either a black light or fish, for example, that can see in the UV spectrum can see those things that you wouldn't normally be able to see. And there's a lot of different materials that have that. Chartreuse is a color that is super effective in fishing. If here in a second I'm going to kill the lights and I'll show you where everything on my bench that is chartreuse naturally hits the UV. And the reason it naturally does that is because the chartreuse color has a lot of phosphors in it. So when you do that, you're always going to have more luck with that. And you look at bass fishermen who fish with lures, who fish with worms, chartreuse is one of the most popular colors there are. That's because it falls in the UV spectrum. So with that said, phosphors are what we're wanting to add. So you can get these pins. I bought this at Hobby Lobby, and it's a pretty awesome deal. You can get them online. And this is Tulip Color Shot. I'm going to zoom in where you can see that. And that is also something you can buy at Hobby Lobby. Now, They sell some additives that you can buy, that you can spray your fishing lures and stuff like that with, and some of them are acetone based. So if you're doing materials that have glues or paints or any oil based substance on them, if you spray them with too much acetone, it'll just completely wipe everything out. So this stuff is really, really potent. It's really, really strong and goes a really long way. So if you use it, be very careful with how much of it you use. Okay, I'm going to show you what that does now under a black light. Now you can see I have no light on and it still kind of reflects. But with the black light, I'll take it from a distance. That's what the fish are basically going to see. Now you can see the natural chartreuse color is glowing. But you can also see where I've added some striping and basically lateral lines with a UV. And look how effective that is. Now, with that said, you can look back at my desk and anything that is chartreuse, you can see it. That is just because it's naturally on the UV spectrum because it has so many phosphors in it. So with that said, I'm going to show you the super cheap effective way. This pin was $4. This jar was like, or this can was like $9. You know, not very expensive, and a little bit goes a long way. I way oversprayed this stuff just to get the look. So you don't want your stuff to be that glowing. You want it to be kind of mid-level that way. So what I have done is I have did a little bit of research. I used to work in the pool industry. I built swimming pools, and I learned a little bit about water chemistry. And phosphors are not good in a pool environment when they're wet. And the reason why is because they can add into the chemical composition of the water and they attract algae really, really, really bad. So when you're doing this stuff with things that have phosphors in it, you want to make sure they're super, super dry. So I'm going to take a feather right here and I'm going to show you a method that you can make an unbelievable blacklight reactive, UV reactive material for pennies on the dollar. Truthfully, you probably won't have to spend any money whatsoever to do it because this is a household item that every house has. Now, with that said, I use a little glass spritzer bottle that I mix this compound up with. This is not as potent as the glow-in-the-dark phosphor paint that I've got, which I like because it's more realistic. It's not like this neon thing floating in the water. It's way more realistic. So what I'm going to show you is what the chemical is under a black light. I'll turn the light back on and then we're going to guess what it is. So here's a chemical that you can make, that you can UV treat at home, and you can see that is super, super reactive. Super, super reactive. I mean, it is a glowing, the camera does not do the justice on it, but it is glowing, super, super reactive. And with that said, you can see here is a feather that I have sprayed a little bit on already. I'm going to turn the light back on. And what this is basic laundry detergent. I think the brand my wife uses is All. We have a bee farm, so we have honeybees, so I took the jar and squirt some directly into it so I can squirt it into these little bottles. What I do is I take and I squirt this bottle about a third of the way full of laundry detergent. Here's one that's already mixed up, and then I take the rest and I just add water to it. And when I do that, you just mix it up real good and you just spray this stuff on. Now, I use an unscented laundry detergent, but by the time this all gets done and dry, you're gonna not have all the detergent parts in here. And once you get all the detergent parts sprayed down, if you need to, you can rinse this in water once it's 100% dry, rinse it in water, spray it again, rinse it in water, stay and continue to do those things, and the detergent parts will go away, but the phosphors will stay. And the reason that detergent has phosphors in it is because they add them into the clothes as a whitening agent, so that when you get out in the sunlight, that your clothes are brighter in the sunlight and they're hitting off that UV spectrum with the phosphors, and it works amazing. And this is just simple laundry detergent. Now, one thing I've also learned is you can take and soak these materials in soda ash. And soda ash is just a white powder, and you can buy soda ash. I actually seen some at Hobby Lobby in the tie-dye section. But if you have a swimming pool, soda ash is what raises the pH up, and that's what makes, anytime you're dyeing or adding chemicals or anything like that to a material that is water absorbing, it will raise the pH level, and that changes the molecules of what you're adding the material to, and it will suck in whatever you're adding to it better. So if you take your materials and soak them into soda ash for 15 minutes and what I usually do is I'll take a cup of soda ash to a gallon of warm water, and then I'll soak these materials into them and let them soak in there for about an hour, and then take them out, rinse them off real good, and then hit them with whatever stains, whatever dyes, whatever UV treatments, anything like that I'm going to use, and it tends to absorb it better. And it's basically just shooting that pH up crazy to where it changes the molecules of it. So this is starting to dry. It's still a little bit wet, but it's starting to dry, so we're going to hit it with a black light and see what it does. Now you can see that feather is now got phosphors and is lighting up under a black light. And I think this looks way more natural than the overkill of spraying the other stuff. You can get way too much of the other stuff really fast. But if you do this, you can do it on lures, you can do it on anything. Back when I was a kid, they had invisible ink where you could write on yourself and you could hit it with a black light, and you couldn't see it unless it was on a black light, and that's all it was phosphors. And you can play around with that and do that with laundry detergent. You can literally take a laundry detergent and take a paintbrush and paint whatever you want on a t-shirt with it, and it's going to light it up with a black light, just as if it was neon reflective. So that's all there is to it. The only problem with phosphors is they do create a lot of algae. So you want to make dang sure that when you do this stuff, you're not going and throwing this stuff into the water just after you've treated it. Now this pin, it is a super fast drying pin, but still you want to do that and then let it dry. It's best, if you're fishing with a certain fly, I always have a few of the same flies. So take one of them, hit it on the pin, stick it on your hat. My fishing hat has a foam pad on there for flies. Not only that, the colors absorb light. So if you keep them on your hat, they'll absorb more of that and they'll have more reflective ability when they get down. So that pin is super awesome. But if you're treating materials at home, you can take large bats of materials and spray that detergent mix on them, let them dry, hit them again, let them dry. You can do 2 or 3 coats and check it, just see how much you want to add to it. And if you add a little bit and then add a little bit more after it's dry and add a little bit more, you get to the point where you see how much you want. It costs $0 because unless you don't have laundry detergent at your house, you're going to be able to make this for nothing, and everybody has to wash their clothes. So all you need is a little laundry detergent, and you now have the ability to make your own UV reactive material. Again, these products are awesome. They make a super, super bright deal, but they're expensive and they overdo it as far as I'm concerned. Where the UV reactive that you get from detergent, I think is a perfect example of what I want on that spectrum when I'm out there fishing. I've had super good luck with it. It works really good. It doesn't wash off if you set it in place. If you let it absorb into the chemical, or the chemical reaction absorb in there, especially like through the soda ash or something like that, and let it dry and do a double or triple treatment of the material and let it dry in between each coat, you'll have no problems whatsoever with it. And it will not leave a scent. Like I say, I rinse my materials off and then treat them again, rinse them off and treat them again, all after being dry. And when you do that, there's no smell, it's just like washing your clothes. We all wash our clothes and we don't smell or anything like that. So use a non-scented detergent and you're gonna have all the UV you need. So I hope this helps. Guys, I make a lot of my own materials, and I do a lot of tricky stuff out on the streams when things aren't working that tend to give me luck when other people aren't having luck. And it's these little tips and tricks like this that I think help. And just lots of asking questions to people, and that's what you got to do. And I think for dollar, you're not going to get a better advantage on the creek than doing a little bit of UV reacting to your material. Now you can also do this to your flies. If you have a bunch of flies sitting at home that are already tied that you didn't have any UV material, you can take this stuff and spray it on top of them and treat them just as such, and it will work. And it's not dangerous. It's super cheap. It's the hands down one of the easiest things you can possibly do, and it is just laundry detergent. Anytime you do this, check your laundry detergent first with a black light to make sure it does have phosphors. Some of the all-natural stuff like that won't have phosphors in it, and if they don't have phosphors, it's not going to do any good. So hit your laundry detergent with a black light to make sure that it will react, and if it reacts, you're good to go. Treat your stuff. So I hope this helps you guys on the stream, and I hope this helps you catch some fish, and we will get to you guys on the next video. Thank you so much.